Welcome back to Steezcast, episode 6.
Most likely our final episode.
Most definitely.
Almost definitely.
We really have sunken into the floor just a tiny bit.
Yeah, it's raining and cold outside.
The table is very high up, and we've got
Our
a
chairs.
beautiful outlook on LA.
No, I think it's Toronto.
It is not.
It's almost 100% LA.
So,
It's 90% Toronto.
if you're watching this, try not to get sucked into that because it's just going to keep looping.
No, it actually rotates between LA and Toronto.
It doesn't at all.
Except you can see the Staples Center.
Yeah, but a fun fact about Toronto is that it's only 7 hours away.
I want to go to Toronto.
That is such a good fun
You know who else
fact.
is from Toronto?
Drake.
The
Mustafa.
Mustafa.
Is he?
Yes.
Mustafa.
Definitely sounds French-Canadian.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, yeah, you don't know where he's like.
Do you know, is he actually from
I
Toronto?
don't know where he's originally from. He lives in Toronto.
Okay.
He's from Toronto. That is really gonna cover the microphone.
I just want to
It covers
before we
it's not gonna cover
With the mic.
before we started out, because most of our viewers are actually watching. Actually, most of our viewers are 5.
Our 5 viewers.
They watched the first minute.
Most
so
of our viewers are in this room.
That's actually very true.
Well,
I want to shout out When Smoke Rises by Mustafa. Great album.
What's the best song on it? Would you say?
Stay Alive.
Can you sing it?
no.
No.
He can't. He cannot.
No, he can't.
He's incapable of doing that. In fact.
Anyway, this is a bit of an unusual episode. We have based this episode off a podcast on the Ringer called The Rewatchables, where we look at older or not older, just cool movies and talk about what's good about them, what's bad about them,
Mostly what's good about them.
mostly what's good about them. Very
Well,
little.
we chose
Good movies.
We chose good movies, so there's very little bad to
We
say.
didn't want to watch. Yeah, no, we chose the movies completely on our own, and there was no outside factors that influenced what movies we picked.
Alright, so
Okay, Knives Out is a good movie.
Do we want to list
Which
out
we
the movies
chose.
that we're going to be?
We're going to be talking first about Shawshank Redemption. I don't know what year that's from.
I want to say 79. I'm not sure.
1979. I think that's way
I
too
think
old.
that's way too old.
Oh no, you're right. I think it's 94.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be
You
90.
think it's 94?
It's 94. That's correct.
That makes way more sense.
Next one.
But 7 hours is an educated guess.
I didn't know it was 94. I
Our
just
next
forgot.
segment, we'll be talking about Knives Out,
1973.
2019. And we're going to finish it off with a segment on the Pencil Man trilogy, along with an exclusive interview with one of the actors.
Most recently, 2021.
Yeah.
Great.
But
Alan Peters.
as far back as 2015.
As far back as 2015.
That's when the first.
This is a long-spanning trilogy we got going on.
But it's an excellent.
But also, the second movie was just a trailer, so it's like.
But was it though?
It was an
Did
experience.
it like mask itself as a trailer?
And
Was
then
that like
it
an
morphed-
artistic decision?
It then morphed.
Well, we'll get into this. We'll get into
Because
this.
the trailer definitely reveals everything that happens.
There was a battle on par with Endgame in there. Let's
I
be
would
real.
agree, yeah.
Hey, let's save this.
Yeah,
Let's save this for the segment.
Anyway, first segment, John will be leading this guy.
We're going, by the way. Should we get it?
I don't think it's gonna matter.
I know we should like kind of gauge.
I'll get the timer going.
Sure. Ben, thank you for your notes contributions. Note. Anyway, our first segment will be on the Shawshank Redemption, led by Jonah.
Yeah. So, The Shawshank Redemption, 1994.
Not 79.
Not 79.
As many would be led to believe.
IMDb's top movie of all time,
Really?
including probably my own as well.
No, it's not IMDb. Is it actually?
What score does
What does it have?
Number
What do you
one
guys
ranking.
follow more? This is kind of a random question. What do you guys
Rotten
follow more?
Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, but I don't know about Rotten Tomatoes because it doesn't say how much people like the movie.
No, they
No, it does. It has views.
Has the audience
score.
It has audience score.
No, it does. But that's what percent of people like the movie, which is not says how many.
No, it says
much.
how many counts. Out of how many counts. So you could then multiply the percent.
No,
by
but
the count.
Ben's saying how much people like the movie, not how many people.
I want to know how much.
Like how much out of 5 they would give it or something.
Oh.
Exactly. Way better. That's why I was.
The difference between much and
It's
many.
like, oh, it is a
is
97%.
That's the same way that.
No, it's
that
not. It's
IMDb
like, what if it had a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes? That's like, what if 97% of people give it a 6 out of 10? Like, technically, yes.
Well, I think like Rotten Tomatoes. What I basically, if you want
That's
to
my take
boil
on
it
this.
down to like out of 10, I'd say like it gets. I mean the percentages. I'd say like if it's 80%, it's probably like an 8 out of 10. You
I
kind
don't
of
think that really applies that way. Because it's like movies that are like liked by a wide variety of people will be rewarded, not movies that will be like really good.
Same thing with IMDb. You give it a
no,
star out of 10.
A score out of 10. This is like a percentage.
Score out of 10, so it can be skewed by like bunch of people who really like it.
Yeah.
Like if like a bunch of people give it a 10 and a bunch
That's
of
what
people
you're
give it
saying.
like a 4, that shouldn't be a 50. That should be
I
like
should
a 7.
really get your point here, and I'm just not.
Yeah, well, everyone else is getting
I
it.
feel
It's
like-
just you.
Yeah.
I feel like though Rotten Tomatoes has like a wider
Yeah.
variety of critics.
Well, Paddington
Like,
2 is
average
apparently
out-
the best movie of
I don't
all
know
time.
how many critics were for IMDb, but I know that.
Well, IMDb isn't just critics.
Yeah, that's like the whole film.
Yeah, I know. It's like, but like obviously you have critics that work for it, right?
Yeah, but
Rotten
you got
Tomatoes has like if I'm looking at The Quiet Place Part 2, reviews, you have 200 reviewers.
right. But the thing is, with IMDb, that's mixing.
IMDb.
Is it IMDb?
Yes.
Oh,
You've
it's
been saying it wrong
it's
this whole
mixing critics and just normal viewers, whereas Rotten Tomatoes it separates it into 2 scores, which I like better
Yeah.
personally.
So now that we've
Now that we've sufficiently gone on a tangent,
I mean, I love Rotten Tomatoes.
before I even started my whole segment,
Yeah.
Let's see what Shawshank got on Rotten Tomatoes. Just
we don't interrupt Jonah on this podcast.
it never happens.
Shawshank received a 91% with a 98% audience score, which Ben pointed out really kind of means nothing, but it seems like the audience liked it.
So, the thing with Shawshank Redemption is when it came out, it kind of tanked in the box office. It did.
There's a lot of really like classic movies that have done that.
No
Do
one,
you have any other examples of that?
No.
Well,
I
like,
read that somewhere.
It'd be
though.
a weird thing to like who wants to go see a movie about a bunch of people who go to prison?
Well,
it's like
Breakout,
makes sense.
Breakouts are entertaining. Like,
Yeah.
you ever seen Prison Break?
Anyway, let continue.
Great.
right, so we don't really know why it tanked in the box office. According to Morgan Freeman on an interview with Graham Norton, the only way that movies really actually get advertised is by word of mouth. Like you can advertise all you want with trailers and stuff, but it's not really gonna. People aren't gonna go watch it unless their friends say that. So he said that people would go see it and they would come back and they would say to their friends, "Oh, I saw this great movie. It's called this."
Oh, they mess up the name?
Slipstake Redemption.
So they mess up the name.
Nobody can pronounce it. Nobody
Shawshank
can
is the
remember what
name
it
of
was.
prison, right?
Shawshank Prison. This is what he said. Obviously, I think this is more of a joke than anything else. But it's just going to show you that we don't really know why it tanked in the box office.
Do we know if Morgan Freeman was a big name by then?
It I don't know about the specific acting
1990.
career.
It definitely like matters that like if you have a big actor
Yes.
involved.
Yeah.
He's been in a lot of stuff in like the early 2000s, so I think this was one of his breakout roles.
Tim
Yes.
Robbins, which I looked it up, the other main character, I don't believe was too big.
No, he wasn't. He
But
looks
he had a great performance.
He looks a little bit like what's his name, Frasier, the guy in The Mummy.
I never watched it.
Oh.
Morgan Freeman had been nominated by an Oscar for a 1987 movie.
But this is
For what
94.
movie?
Oh, 87.
For
Sorry.
87 movie.
So he was around.
Yes, but
So
this one
someone known.
this one really started his career as a very famous narrator.
Yeah.
Because he played a character named Red, and he was an inmate in the Shawshank prison, and he did a lot of the narration for this story. Like it starts out sort of in his narration. I mean, there's a scene before that which outlines exactly sort of what happened to get him into prison. Which, of course, for those of you who haven't seen it in a while, he was accused of murdering his wife and her lover. And so he was sentenced to 2 life sentences, one for each person.
Which I just learned is 40 years.
Yeah, we learned that recently.
Wait,
according to
what?
this.
A life sentence is not
It's not
actually
actually
a
30.
life sentence. It's a set number of years.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's just, I think it's 15 years. And then
15.
You said it was 40. You said it was 40.
You said it was 40, but
I don't know.
What?
Yeah, no, I didn't know this.
I
was
totally
true.
thought it was for your life.
Yeah. Well, and then you're on parole for life. It's it's 15 years.
that's
so odd.
That's like
That's so little.
yeah. That's
It
crazy.
is, but it's not because they don't have to release you, and then you can also.
What about life in prison? Because sometimes
Oh,
is that a life sentence or is that a different thing? Like I sentence you to life in prison. Does that actually mean you
I
say
think that you're just there for.
And oh wait, are you saying that you can just get parole after 15 years, or you're released after 15 years?
You parole after 15 years.
And that was part of the movie, right?
Yeah.
He applied
Yes.
to parole.
Yeah, well, so Red applied for parole a few times in the movie, the Morgan Freeman's character, which
Just
is
denied it much.
If you get life without parole, then you're in jail for life.
so right. So Red as a character did a lot of the narration early on and even at the end, and so that sort of solidified Morgan Freeman as one of the great narrators in movies.
It's
I've
interesting
never
that
watched a
it's-
nature documentary narrated by him. It's just the greatest.
You love nature documentaries.
Well, I don't know. They're just so awesome.
Yeah, but he's not the great nature documentary.
No, that's David Attenborough.
Yeah,
That's
I know.
David Attenborough.
He's someone else, but he has narrated nature documentaries. It's awesome.
narrated-
I still think David Attenborough.
Then
is
you
the
narrated.
best.
He narrated
you guys ever
March
see
of
the
the
movie
Penguins.
Earth? What?
Yeah, I saw it.
March of the Penguins.
Earth. I don't.
Oh, March of the Penguins.
I think Earth is David Attenborough.
There's a new there's every single company has made a nature documentary with David Attenborough.
That's
Because he's so good.
He's
just
He's
like
so
common
good.
voice,
His
right?
voice is
That's
so
like-
soothing.
No, he's not. He's not. No, that's
He's
the thing.
British, right?
He's not a common voice. He's got a very interesting voice.
He's British, right?
Yeah.
But he does have somewhat of a common voice, if I remember.
Calming, not common.
Oh,
Not
you said
common.
calming.
Oh, I thought you said common.
Yeah,
No.
I understand that.
It's interesting too because there's not like a ton of modern movies that you see with narration.
No, but
Like,
if
that's
you
an
can get more.
interesting-
It's mostly
Like-
just like nature documentary.
Like you had Savage Mode 2 with Morgan Freeman narrating. Like it's clear. This is
That's
like
true.
He's become a very-
That's
yeah.
a great artistic decision by
yeah, it was fantastic.
Not in the movie though.
No,
Not
not
in
a
the
movie, but
In a way.
Morgan Freeman.
March of the Penguins is a great movie though. Oh my gosh.
So
That's one of the.
can we wrap up the next documentary? Because I'm like 7.5 minutes into my segment, and I actually haven't said
Really? There's
anything.
no time limit for this one.
There's no time for this.
Yeah, it's kind of more open-ended.
Alright.
The thing is, we're going to talk about Pennsylvania for probably an hour.
That's true.
Well, our exclusive interview is gonna be incredible.
Yes. So, what ends up being so good about this movie and why it's become a classic, in my opinion, even though it didn't really do so well originally, like it didn't get any Oscars. It was nominated for 7, but didn't get any. Again, didn't do well in the box office. But why it's been so successful overall, and why I think IMDb has deemed it their top movie of all time in their rankings, is because it sort of defies genre. Which, like, it's a prison escape movie, but that's not really the focus of it.
The only prison escape part comes like
It's very
2 hours into the movie. It's
Like
like
at the
very
very
end.
end. So like that's one of the things which I mean, and part of it is what I like about Knives Out as well, which we'll get into. But what I
It's
think
more
is,
of a life experience.
what I think about this movie is that it lures you into a false sense.
Shut up.
It lures you into a false sense of security with what's going on in the movie. So like you get that in Knives Out, and when you turn on Shawshank to watch it, he goes to jail, and you spend the first 15, 20 minutes thinking, okay, how's he gonna get out? Like when do they start showing his plan to escape?
Yeah.
And then it goes into him like trying to make friends with Red's friends. He meets Brooks and Jake, and he starts his own library, and he does everyone's taxes.
Yeah, you want to say
I
counter.
remember that.
Yeah, because he was a big.
That's how he
bank.
plays the music.
He's a big bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great scene as well.
That's a great scene.
And so you get into all this stuff, and you're like, oh, okay, he's just gonna do this like a normal person does prison.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, he escapes.
Yeah.
At the end.
You're not privy to any of his like tactics for escape.
No.
You see him ask for the poster.
Yeah,
That's
he's
the
got
only
poster
thing.
and the rock hammer.
And the rock hammer.
But
That's how he
that's it.
escaped. He digs a hole.
And hides it with a poster of what's her name?
Varying people, it changes.
Yeah.
Does?
Yeah, he changes poster.
Also, can I just point out, because you said they didn't win an Oscar, but that year actually they were up against, for Best Picture, they were up against Forrest Gump and Pulp Fiction, which is incredible.
That's brutal.
That's a
Shawshank,
tough
Pulp
one.
Fiction, and
That's
Forrest
a really good year of
Gump.
movies.
What do you choose
Wow.
out of those three? You'll probably pick
I pick Shawshank.
I picked Pulp Fiction.
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump.
That was incredible.
I didn't like Forrest Gump that much.
I cried during Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
I
That
thought
like
Forrest
whole
Gump-
scene where he goes to the grave.
I was so unmoved
so
by that one
great.
movie. Didn't
He
care.
goes to Jenny's grave.
Oof. That was a good movie.
That was a great movie.
Yeah, so it's actually like I'll get into it essentially. But Pulp Fiction is another movie I want to talk about briefly. But so yeah, but as I said, you're not privy to any of his tactics for escaping at all. It just happens. And like granted, there is some stuff that like changes in the actual plot where things start to go a little bit wrong in his life as an inmate.
Right.
But you completely forget about that whole thing with like usually in movies like this, you're thinking about it a lot. Like in Knives Out, for some of the time, which is again why it's such a good movie, you're thinking about like what actually did happen.
Well, you're trying I spent a lot of the movie the first time I watched it trying to piece together what happened.
Right.
Obviously, I didn't get it, but
But for this, like as I said, you get lured into this false sense of security into like knowing what's going on in the movie. So that's one reason why I think it has aged so well. But then also what I said about it defies genre. Like it's not a mystery. It's not a thriller because it's got a lot more funny moments than that. It's not a comedy because there's some dark stuff that happens. It sort of lives in that middle ground. And like if you think about a lot of the other movies that are up for like in debate for the best movie of all time, The Godfather.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not keen on that kind of movie, you're just not gonna like it.
Yeah, I watched it a while ago.
I never saw it.
I'm sure it was great. Like I saw it like when I was like very tired, like ninth grade. But so I don't really remember. But I do remember being bored for a lot of it.
And like
it's about relatability.
Yeah.
Because
so,
if you have something that defies genre, that means there's a lot of pieces that are taken from outside of the movie itself and then placed in there, and then that's what makes people want to see it because they can see themselves in that movie. This is actually exactly what I talked about. You're gonna make fun of me for this, but this is exactly what I talked about for Rango. When I did my theory essay on Rango.
And you're thirsty and you can't find water.
No, like you laugh all you want, but this is the exact thing I talked about.
If Rudge watches this, he'll relate.
Yeah.
Unlikely.
But yeah.
Because like everyone's been to prison, so we can all relate to that. Like
no, but there's
you
pieces that you can
pieces
take.
of a character that you can relate to.
Right.
It's not the.
So like other movies like Citizen Kane, 12 Angry Men. Again, like if you're not into that.
Citizen Kane, I also think is a little bit like Shawshank Redemption because again, there's not like what genre would you put that in? There's not really like with The Godfather you can put it into kind of like the mobster thriller category.
Yeah.
Citizen Kane is just it's like Shawshank where it's almost just like a life experience maybe.
Guys, I feel like we're leaving out this conversation Paddington 2, which got 99% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It actually no on Rotten Tomatoes until yesterday it was the highest scoring movie and then it got bumped down to 99%.
What?
well, because that's what I was talking about. There's something in it for everyone.
Yeah.
I did not.
I never watched it.
So.
I never watched it. But going back again to Pulp Fiction, the whole like out of orderness of it can be disorienting for people. So like in a lot of movies that are in these conversations, there's a group of people or like a way of watching movies that it doesn't fit with really, and so there's some people who will go away saying like I didn't really love it. Shawshank is so well done, and again in like the middle ground that everyone who watches it can find some piece of it. Like I watched it a long time ago when I was younger, and I got some of it, and I liked it a lot. And then I watched it again somewhat recently. I've watched it a few times since then. Yeah, and
Well, that was like your third time watching it. Or something.
yeah, I mean I've watched it probably 3 or 4 times at this point. And so it was like I got so much more from it in some regards, and then some of it I didn't really see as important as I did when I was younger. So one of these themes that I want to touch on is this idea of institutionalization, which one of the more impactful scenes in the movie is when Brooks leaves the prison.
Yeah.
He's granted parole, and the first thing he does is get a knife and hold it to one of his friend's throats, trying to stay in prison.
Really?
Yeah.
I remember he felt uncomfortable. Was this after he lived in the outside world for a little bit?
No, this was before. So he was granted the parole, and
I
before.
watched this yesterday.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just forgetting. Obviously.
Homie,
No,
what?
well, I remember he's the character that ends up killing himself.
Yes.
You watched
But
this yesterday. You watched this yesterday. He promises.
no, I just forget.
Someone wasn't doing their homework.
He watched this yesterday.
No, I forget.
No, I know you watched it yesterday.
Yes, well, I did.
You
But I
did.
just
You
forgot.
totally did.
Continue.
So the first thing he does is hold a knife to his friend's throat, hoping to stay in prison. And this was pretty impactful to me specifically, just because.
You've done it before.
No, I'm just talking about when I was watching it, my experience. Just because it shows like really how much of a real thing. I'm not describing it as well, but you remember the quote from Red, where he says, you know, if there's a funny thing about walls. First you hate them, then you get used to them, then you depend on them.
Yeah.
So that was like the fear in the actor's eyes playing Brooks, when he was like, he didn't pull it out to his friends out of anger towards him or
he just wanted to stay.
He just wanted to stay. And so then when he ends up leaving, like Tim Robbins' character Andy talks him out of it. And so when he ends up going out in the outside world, he writes a letter to his friends in prison, and he talks about like how much everything's changed. Like, imagine going to prison for that long.
Yeah, he was 50 years, right?
He was, I don't remember. He was in there for a long time though.
Yeah. It's 50 years.
So, like he said that he saw automobiles when he was a kid and like before he was in prison, but then when he got out of prison, they were so common.
Yeah.
So imagine like leaving prison and seeing that whole changed world that has gone on without you.
Marvel reference, Captain America woke up quite a bit later.
The necessary
except it
Marvel
didn't have
reference.
the same effect.
No. Because then he turned into a superhero.
Instead of killing
So literally every single episode of this podcast you made.
I had to continue. I was kind of searching.
On the last one, that's fair. But like he writes to his friends and he says, "I just want to go home."
Wow.
And so the home, of course, in his mind at this point is prison, and it ends up being too much for him. He says, you know, like, I've decided I don't want to stay. I don't think that there'll be too much fuss over an old crook like me. And so it shows exactly like that. I think it illustrates well this concept of institutionalization, where like you make your whole life in prison, and I think it was Red as well who says like in here he was a distinguished man, but out there like he loses all of that.
Yep.
So
What's the other quote that Red has? Get busy
living or get busy dying.
Yeah. The scene. I mean, I thought the Brooks scene was really powerful. The other scene that I thought was really powerful, I forget his name, but one of the prisoners is let out under false pretenses, and then the warden has him shot as soon as he's out of the jail.
No, that's not. So that was the scene where the inmate has information that could lead to Andy's release.
Yeah.
Because he has information that would prove that Andy was innocent.
Right.
And Andy like did a bunch of shady stuff.
Well, he also,
Right.
but he does the taxes for the warden.
Right,
And
so-
like does a bunch of.
Well, but like all of the money
Yeah,
laundering and stuff
exactly.
that he does, he knows too much and he couldn't allow it. So,
Right.
like, I thought that was like it was a shocking scene, but I didn't see it as exactly as powerful as some of the other stuff in there. So like we were talking about parole earlier with Red. There are 3 distinct scenes where Red goes in for parole.
Yeah.
To try and get granted parole. And so the first 2 times he goes in with the exact same answer. He says, I mean, I'm a changed man, no danger to society here, God's honest truth, and reject it. And the 3rd time, this is after 40 years of a life sentence, and he switches up his answer a little bit, and he says, this is after Andy's escaped. He goes into like getting all very introspective and talking about how he would speak to his younger self now. But then he also gets somewhat hostile towards the, I don't know what you call them, arbitrators?
Interviewers
Yeah.
or whatever you want to call them.
And it was he goes into like saying to like, give me your red stamp and I'll be on my way, I don't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the one thing that like sort of took me out of it, which was like, would that really happen? Like, I get that he had to be released for the ending to happen, where he goes down and meets Andy, and they
In whatever country, I forget. What
Mexico. I
Is
think.
they go to Mexico?
And so I get it necessary, but like, I don't know if changing up your answer that much.
And to that in specific would be the thing that lets you go.
Right. Yeah. So that was the only thing that really stuck out to me is like, is this really realistic?
I don't really know the details of how you get granted parole, but I think much of it is, it's not only the interview. It's a lot of like how you are in jail and like how you treat like the guards and how if you don't cause any problems. I think that's much of it. I think it was more just like having him switch up his answer, like maybe showed some growth, or it was more just like this moment in the movie where you see a character shift a little bit. I think that's more what it was going for. I don't know if it's very realistic. If you're getting hostile in an interview, it's probably not.
I don't know if it's hostile per se, but like.
No, he gets aggressive a little bit.
Yeah, you probably don't
raises
want to do
his
that in real life. But I do think that scene was more to display some character change and development.
Yeah.
Rather than like be realistic and be like, this is the answer. This is how you get off parole. So,
Right.
I think people have really tried to like do that. When trying to like, if they're talking to someone who's, if you're leaving prison, people have tried to like, real people in prison, I'm saying, try to imitate what he's saying.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm sure at least one
has.
has.
You would think that somebody would
Pretty
try
funny. You
to.
just go in with the script.
Yeah, it's got to be the Shawshank Redemption script. Well, they're not free.
I'm sure it's happened. There are a lot of prisoners.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty popular.
Crazy amount of prisoners.
There's an insane amount of prisoners.
Yeah. That's pretty much touched on all I wanted to talk about. Those were, in my mind, the more impactful scenes in the film itself. And as to if I agree with IMDb's rankings, I think yes, in my opinion, Shawshank is my personal favorite movie of all time.
I don't think I have a
It was a
personal
great
favorite.
movie, but it's hard to rank. But
It is tough. I mean, if you're ranking movies as like just movies, there's so many different things about each one that like again falling into different genres, and you get different things out of them. So
I definitely agree with you. I think just based on what you said, the most powerful stuff was showing the separation between real life and prison. And like how like people feel more comfortable in prison because they're so adjusted to prison life that's so separate.
Well, and you've
from
got like the thing is you've got people in the audience who may not have been to prison but have probably had an experience like that.
Yeah.
Like that's probably one of the most extreme like cases of going out of your comfort zone, but it's depicted in a very realistic way.
Yeah.
Like you have scenes in other movies where people face a challenge that they're not comfortable with, but a lot of times it's not dealt with in a human way because they're not they're like the special character, the main character.
Mm-hmm.
Brooks is a side character.
Yeah.
He's someone who's not touched on a lot, and that makes it very relatable for people in the audience.
right, and there's especially this one thing that he says where he says like life moves so fast out here.
Yeah.
Where like that's not specific to only prisoners leaving. Anyone who's been through it, like a massive change in their lifestyle.
Or just like teenage years.
Yeah. Like that's something that can be related to pretty easily.
Yeah.
So that was why that was so impactful to me, and especially I think you're right. It's important that he's a side character as well. He's not even like a main story.
He's not idolized.
Right.
Or deified.
Which is, I think, another reason why it's become such a classic movie is like you get these really great performances from Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman in their main roles. But then like the side characters too have so much depth to them. Like Warden Norton is done really well. Brooks is done really well. And so it's like even as they're not, pushed to the spotlight, they still like hold up their end very, very well.
Yeah.
So that's what I got on Shawshank Redemption.
I'm gonna do for Knives Out. I'm gonna do it in a little bit of a different way. You talked a lot about the themes that are demonstrated throughout the film. I'm gonna talk a little bit about mostly director's choices and things throughout the film which help to emphasize like maybe hidden meanings or something that Ryan Johnson was trying to communicate. But first, Chuck, I'd love to hear your summation of what Knives Out is.
So I remember going to Knives Out when it was first released in theaters and thinking it would be a standard.
Well, we went together.
Yeah, I think so.
It's one of the few movies that I've walked in with super high expectations, and they've been exceeded. Because Joker, I walked in with super high expectations, and I didn't love
I
it.
enjoyed it.
I thought Joker.
I thought it was good, but it didn't live up to the expectations that I set for it, which is partially my fault. But this is one of the only movies that has like blown me away.
One movie that was mentioned where it just didn't live up to the hype, in my opinion, was Pulp Fiction. That's just personal.
It just took some time to figure out for me.
I mean, like when I figured it out, I was like, well, that's kind of lame.
Yeah.
Like, it was like all this stuff happened.
Well, what'd you figure out?
Well, like when you put together all the timelines and how they intersect, I'm like, yeah, like this.
Like it's cool. It's an interesting directorial choice,
Yeah,
but like.
yeah.
What I really did like though, not Pulp Fiction. That's not the word. Fiction. But a movie that I like didn't know much about, but then like when I watched it was like blown away was Kill Bill.
Kill Bill I thought was good. I thought
Action.
Django Unchained was better.
I never saw it.
That's it. That's probably my favorite Tarantino movie. It's
I think one movie that like I had high expectations for and it also kind of blew me away was Good Will Hunting. I don't know if you've seen it, but I really.
And it's such a good movie. It's
I-
really good movie.
yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like I think like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck when they're like really young, and they weren't.
Well, and Robin Williams as well.
And Robin Williams, that was kind of like a big-ish part, but there's nothing like that like big about it. It's more just like these conversations, the interactions.
Again, relatability.
Yeah. But yeah, we kind of went on a change.
Anyway, your description of
Okay, so when I first watched it, I thought it'd be like a standard murder mystery, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna figure this out. Like, I'm really gonna try to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then I see the character actually die, and I'm like, dog, like I just watched him die. How am I gonna figure it out?
Yeah.
I know how he died.
Well, that's that false sense of security that I was talking about earlier. Where like you always think you know what happened.
Yeah.
And like so you spend that first bit talking, thinking to yourself like, okay, well each one of these children had a motive to do it. Like they've been cut off somehow. But like as the detective says, that's weak sauce.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's weak sauce.
So then you see it happen, and you're like, well, that kind of just took all the fun out of it.
Well, I was like, how are they going to make a movie about this? Like, we literally just saw it happen like, within the first few minutes.
And the coolest thing is that's exactly how he dies in the end. Like he would have been completely fine if he didn't commit suicide.
Yeah.
I think there's two main twists of the movie. I think the first twist is the will reading, and the second twist is the fact that you find out that it actually is like a clear-cut case of suicide.
Yes.
The
But
entire
also you
last
had
scene.
the murder attempt
Yeah.
twist. That was-
Yeah, but like take that all away, he just committed suicide. There's no other factors there's factors that led to him committing suicide, but that's all that killed him.
How like Marta was actually a good nurse. She actually like recognized by sight.
It wasn't. It was like the viscosity or whatever of the morphine and the
color.
and then
It was the color. She recognized it without the labels.
Yeah, exactly. But what was the sentence? An unconventional. How'd you describe that's kind of boring.
But,
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I just remember like giving up. Like, how am I gonna like figure this out? This is like.
I gave up once Detective Blanc started talking about donut holes.
That's a funny scene.
That's what. Oh no, it's a great scene. But I was.
Daniel Craig does that character very.
Yeah,
His
the
accent
first time
is
he
so
talked-
good.
Yeah, the first time I talked, I was like, whoa.
That's not how you normally talk.
Yeah, I was like, I was.
Well, because exactly, you're so used to seeing him in James
He's
Bond.
like the serious.
And it's
guy.
cool because it proves that he has like serious depth as an actor.
He was very good. In the
I mean they're coming
All
out.
of those actors were great. Really. All of like
The one thing is that like the only besides Daniel Craig, the really famous person is Chris Evans among the children. So it doesn't.
Christopher Plummer,
Yeah.
Tony Collette.
I don't know these.
They were
She's in
very
Hereditary.
awesome.
She was phenomenal in Hereditary.
They're pretty. It was
Well,
pretty.
And the guy who plays Walt.
Yeah, no, they're all
Right,
famous, but they're to be fair, they're from a different generation.
Yeah.
No, but you have who's the other?
Ana de Armas.
Yeah.
Oh, the main detective who was also in
I love that dude so much.
he was in Judas and Black Messiah, right?
Yeah, he's in.
Yes.
He's in Get Out too.
He's in Get Out.
He's the guy who has the flash taken of him.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I kind of wanted when I was researching this, I was trying to see you said your dad figured out
Yeah.
what
I just have
happened.
No idea how.
Yeah, that's
I
not
was trying to see when I was researching if there's a way to figure out what happened before it's actually revealed. I think there is, but you have to be incredibly perceptive.
Yeah, you would have to get
There's a couple-
your back again.
There's a couple things that you would need to like recognize and then put together. The first thing is that the help calls Ransom Hugh.
Yes.
That's probably the most important thing.
Who does?
The help.
Fran.
Like the help calls Ransom
Friends with
Hugh.
person that dies.
Exactly, and when Ana de Armas or Marta goes up to her, she says Hugh did this, but it sounds like you.
And in the subtitles it says you as well.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, she
They-
finds
that-
out. How does she find out?
Well, they don't want you to know that. She saw the report, right? Am I wrong?
No, I forget what
No,
she
she saw Ransom go upstairs when everyone was at the funeral. She saw him go upstairs.
Oh, to get the
and
bag back,
upstairs.
but it had already been something had already happened to it.
No, it was there. It was just that
There's some change up that happens, and I'm forgetting what it is.
No, I think it was just to take the bag itself.
Yeah.
Maybe just
But she was there whenever, and that's why he missed the funeral.
Yeah.
Because he was there going to
Right.
retrieve the
Yeah,
evidence.
exactly.
And she's the one who actually sends the note that Marta then gets, but he just rips off a bit of it that
The part
shows
that's clean.
Exactly. So I think that's probably the main thing to recognize. The other thing, which takes a lot of like thinking about, is the fact that the toxicology place gets burned down. Because at this point, we've established, when we find out the toxicology place has been burned down, we have established that Marta's innocent. And, basically,
Well, at least that Marta
No.
didn't intentionally.
Marta didn't sorry.
try to kill him.
But we've established that she didn't burn it down.
Yes.
Right.
And
So yes.
and right now, the toxicology report we think is the thing that's going to like reveal that Marta actually killed him.
Yes.
So she's the only person who would have a motive to actually burn the place down.
Yeah, we know she didn't.
So someone didn't burn it down in order to hide the fact that there would be morphine in the system. Someone burned it down to hide the fact that there wouldn't be morphine in the system. Then putting that together with your bit of Fran recognizing that like he went up, and also the fact that the dogs only bark at Ransom. They barked at 2 a.m. when he tried to come
Yeah,
back.
so
That's why he came at the funeral.
Yes.
And the fact that the grandma said, Ransom, you're back again already. She already saw him climb up there before to switch the
Also,
labels.
When they show him climbing back up, he steps on the windowsill, and Ana de Armas' character does not.
Right.
So, and they found dirt on that windowsill, so that was actually.
And the only other thing those are like the three main clues that you need to put together to figure out that it's Ransom. I think like one of the things that's helpful to set him apart is the fact that first of all, he's just an asshole. Second of all, the fact that the only conversation between Harlan and his children or his grandchildren that we don't see is Ransom's conversation.
Yes.
Like initially, like we see the ones with Richard and with Walt and
You just have clues. Of what-
Joni cutting her off. And the third thing is that he goes totally out of character and helps Martha.
Yes.
Because
And
that's-
his whole reaction to the will reading was very like, I already know.
Well, he already knew what was gonna happen.
Yeah.
Right, but we didn't know that he knew that,
Yeah.
that Martha was going to get it. We knew that he knew he wasn't going
He
to
wasn't gonna
And
get
then
it.
it already goes to set up Marta right away.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, the cool thing is also his reaction once Martha tells him the actual truth, and then he realizes that he's totally like screwed over
Yeah.
because a toxicology report will prove her innocence.
Yeah.
There's a scene where he's like, you can see he's thinking really deeply because he knows he messed up.
Yeah.
Um,
Another thing that I recognized again when I went back and watched it another time was the double take that Detective Blanc does
Yeah.
at Marta's shoe.
That's a
Yeah.
really cool scene.
Yeah.
That's one of many things of foreshadowing or like very subtle hints at the fact that Blanc knows more than he's letting on to.
Yeah, like you see, he spends an extra couple seconds just looking at her shoe because there's a speck of blood on it.
Yeah, that is insane. Also, not to mention, this is a hilarious movie.
It was a really,
Like it's
really
really funny. I mean, I was going in expecting kind of like a dark, moody, not necessarily thriller, but to have an atmosphere of like suspense.
Yeah.
This was, I mean, I was
Yeah.
laughing out loud at a couple points.
The whole will reading scene was cool.
The whole will reading. Well, the whole will reading scene is just pure shock value, which is
Well,
part of
I
it.
know, but like also when like Ransom just goes and tells everyone to eat shit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's awesome.
One of the coolest things that I found in the movie itself is how Rian Johnson, the director, distinguishes or kind of isolates Martha from the family. There's a couple things that they do. The first of which is that at different points of the movie, when each of like the three children are talking to Martha, they all mention that they won her at the funeral, but they were outvoted.
Yep.
Every single one of them.
I only picked up on Joni and Waltz.
No, I'm
not Joni.
Joni does it too.
I didn't realize Joni. I knew Walt did it, and I knew
They did it.
what's the other one's name? Richard.
What's her name?
The one married to Richard.
No, I just forget her name.
Yeah, the oldest daughter.
Yeah.
The one who's closest with their dad.
Oh, it's actually her daughter. His daughter.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. The next thing they do is they all refer to a different country that she's
That was
from.
funny. That I picked up on like the first time I watched it.
Uruguay, Paraguay, and Ecuador.
There was one in Brazil as well.
Yeah.
Oh, was it? Maybe I missed up Paraguay and Uruguay.
No, they were four. There were four.
Oh, were there four?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I heard three. Okay, I didn't even pick up on the fourth one. Another part is when you remember when they're talking about immigration and they bring
Yes.
Martha over.
Well, in that scene they show earlier, as Richard describes, like we love her, she's part of the family.
Yeah, exactly. But they
Something that was interesting about that whole scene is that it already is a little dated because like it's referencing something that was like here we are like what 3 years later now,
Yeah.
and it already is something that's clearly a past
yeah.
Yeah.
event.
But what's really cool about like the characters actually acting subconsciously how they would is in that scene you get a shot of Richard talking to Joni who's across from him, and he just subconsciously hands Martha his plate.
Yep.
Even though like he's just referred to her as part of the family and she's supposed to be a caregiver, not a butler.
Yes.
I thought that was really cool. Also, this isn't really about their relation to Marta, but this is more about the kind of the divide within the families. Every single time that there's an interview with the detectives and you see a vision from the night of the party, the two people standing behind Harlan change.
Yes. What do you mean with the cake?
Exactly,
Yeah.
with the cake.
Yep, I noticed that as well.
Which I thought was a really cool, like, kind of way to not distinguish the families, but show both their self-centeredness and the disconnect between the families.
Yes. Well, I mean, it also shows like their own spin on how things went when they talk to the detectives.
Exactly.
Or like they're likely trying to make themselves seem the most innocent as possible.
I also love how Rian Johnson breaks up the interview so that it's not just like one after another, but they kind of interplay. And there's a whole thing with like the daughter being like, "Are you baiting me, detective?" and then her husband totally falls for it.
Yeah, there were a couple parts there in the movie where it started showing what the detective was asking.
Yeah.
And I didn't know who he was talking to. Cause
Exactly.
Even like looking back, he could have been talking to any of them
Mhm.
asking them these questions.
The other thing that's really cool about the movie, which I think is probably pretty important for a murder mystery, is the foreshadowing. Like you said, the detective doing a double take at her shoe, but there's a lot of other cases. First of all, during the interviews, when you have like the children of the family, they're all seated. You know how there's this big display of knives that in a circle? They're all seated to the right of that.
Yeah.
And when Martha's interviewed, she's dead smack in the center.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Which is awesome. It also like that comes in again later when they have
Very
the whole
last
thing
scene
with
of
Ransom.
Ransom.
Then both her and Daniel Craig appear at the center of it.
It's a very cool piece of imagery, like being at the center of a bunch of knives pointed at you.
But if I remember in the original interview scene, there's never like a head on
Exactly.
shot for like the left side or
Yeah,
something.
but you can see that she's
Even
in
though
the center.
Yeah, she would be there.
The other thing is, I mean, this is kind of funny, but going back to the whole like immigrant scene, Richard says these are immigrants who are coming in and taking stuff that's not theirs.
Yeah.
She ends up taking everything from them
Yeah.
by way of Harlan.
The mention of Harlan when he is about to die or whatever, about to commit suicide, but during the game go, he's talking about Ransom. Like,
Yeah,
he wouldn't know
the difference between a prop and the real thing, and then he ends up using a fake on Marta
Yeah.
when trying to kill her.
Was that so? I couldn't tell based on looking at the actual thing. Was that the only prop knife in there?
I don't think so. Well, it might have
Because
been.
a lot of those knives look like are very hard to fake, like to do the same thing that they.
Well, because a lot of other knives aren't supposed to be. That's supposed to be a what's it called? It's not a switchblade. But that's a very specific type of knife. So I think a lot of the other ones are either dull or maybe even real.
Right, because like that one, it's got so that the blade can retract into the
handle.
hilt.
Yeah.
Like the other ones,
But
you
your
couldn't do
curved
that.
knife.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
The other thing that I thought was cool was the game of Go, and what that game actually is. So it's a
No
game.
idea what the game
Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
No, they were
So-
putting pebbles everywhere.
Yeah, basically the goal of the game, you take turns placing these little black and white tiles on the intersection of squares, and the goal of the game is to cover more territory than your opponent's, right? And if you box one of your opponent's tiles in, then you get to take it off. So I'm pretty sure you can place a pebble wherever you want to. But the cool thing is when Marta and Harlan are playing, she says, I'm not playing to win, I'm playing to like create a beautiful pattern. And her and Ransom are the only two to ever beat Harlan at Go. He's playing to beat Harlan. He's like trying to like kind of get inside Harlan's head and figure out what he would do and kind of retrace those steps. Where she's just having this I didn't really love, but the whole thing of having like a kind heart. And that's what ends up getting her through this entire
That's what
ordeal.
ends up like. The detective is like, I'm pretty sure you didn't do it initially, just because like her kindness, you know.
Well, and also like you think about what happened with Fran, where Ransom expected her to just leave Fran there to die, but
Yeah.
instead she called the ambulance and sent her to the hospital. Even though it would.
She didn't live though, right? She pretended.
No, she died.
Well, it's really funny because she picks up the phone from the doctor and she goes, "Oh, that's great news. We'll be right there."
And
then she hangs up.
It's revealed that phone call. It was to say Fran died.
died.
Oh, that's good news.
That's great news.
What do you guys feel about the whole like plot point where she just throws up every
I thought that was.
It was a little silly.
It's a very cheap, but the thing is, they needed something to they needed a plot point like that, and that is it's not necessarily realistic, but it's kind of a fun way to implement it.
Yeah.
What's interesting is like Detective Blanc, is that his name?
Yeah. Ben
Could have theoretically asked Marta, "Did you kill Harlan at the beginning of the movie?" And she would.
No, I
she
think-
believed she killed Harlan.
No, the point is that he knew that she killed Harlan from the beginning because of the shoes, but he didn't want to do that.
Well, she knew that he knew that she had some involvement.
Well,
Well, I
the
think
issue
he
was
didn't
that he couldn't get around why he was hired, who hired him,
Yeah.
why it was anonymous.
Yeah, he wanted to figure that out first.
And also, I think there was that there's that scene where he's talking to the grandma and he says like, it's not about finding the truth, but like it's what you do when you have it or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I think he does.
He already knows.
He knows she's involved somehow, so he doesn't want to implicate her in front
Which
of
is
the
also part of the
detectives.
reason why he keeps her around.
Exactly.
I like just a little last thing I really like. I mean I don't know. You guys saw The Last Jedi. What did you guys think of it?
I like
I
it.
didn't see it.
I really liked it. The Last Jedi. It's the second sequel. A lot of people hate it. I loved it.
I enjoyed it, and I hated how they just reverted everything.
Yeah, I thought it was actually done very well. Maybe not like people got upset because of the Star Wars movie, but I like what Rian Johnson did with it. So I kind of looked then at like his directorial choices in this movie. There's a couple really cool scenes. The first one is after the will reading when Marta goes outside to get to her car. As she's like kind of standing on the porch, the camera zooms in and it's very steady. And then once everyone else comes out and kind of like jumps about, it gets picked up and then it becomes a shaky cam, which is awesome.
I always think those are cool. Like when
yeah.
I was watching The Office for the first time as well, they had like a very unsteady camera.
Yeah.
When it was like following people around, and I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. It actually gets me in the to the vibes that it is somebody with a camera in the office.
There's a lot of zooming in and zooming out on one character because the movie is shot with a lot of like layers. When I say that, I mean characters placed in different places. So you've got like a scene where you've got the oldest sister in the front, and there's a second layer with Richard and Walt in the background, and then a third layer with Blanc and Marta.
Mm-hmm.
That creates a lot of depth, and then the zoom-ins almost feel like it's almost like Vertigo, or like you think you finally found out what's going on. It works very well with the movie itself. What else do I have? The donut hole, like the whole idea of a donut hole, and then you've got the knife arrangement in kind of like the shape of a donut. I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
That was such a funny thing. thing of Blonde. Like Blonde's character had so many funny moments. Where
He's got the whole antithesis of gravity or whatever.
That was yeah. But then also like that scene where the ambulances are showing up at Fran and he's just like jamming to his music.
Oh yeah.
They also do a good job. Like he like doesn't take himself too seriously as like the suit, which makes it more fun.
Because there's a lot of there's a movie called Murder on the Orient Express, which does exactly that. The detective takes it way like he's just not a character. He's just a detective. He's not an actual person. And the last thing that I thought was really cool as a directorial choice was the fact that in the beginning you've got this big portrait of Harlan, right? And he's kind of has a grim expression. And then by the end, once Marta takes over that house, that like painting changes to a picture of him smiling. Yeah, it's really cool.
I didn't pick up on that.
But yeah, those are kind of my.
Then you have that one scene where she drinks.
Where she drinks the coffee with the
my house, my coffee, my rules.
I also like that. It was a little cliche, but I liked it.
No, it was really good. Yeah. But anyway, those are kind of like the very nitpicky things I had on Knives Out that I thought made it good.
No, yeah, I think that was an excellent summary of it, and I agree with a lot of what you said. I like the movie a lot.
It's just a fun movie.
I don't want to say it kept me on my toes because it really didn't, but that was the good part about it.
Yeah.
Which is that like I was so far off my toes that I wasn't ready.
Yeah, I was fooled. I was like, they got me.
I thought it was going somewhere completely different.
Well, I was like, what else of the movie are they gonna tell?
I thought, there was someone that I like suspected right until the very end when they revealed what happened, and I forget who it was.
I thought it was. I thought it was Walt.
I didn't expect anything because I was like, I saw him die. I literally was like, what? Like, is this whole movie gonna be about Blanc like figuring out what actually happened?
Yeah.
But I already know what happened.
At one point, I was like, the grandma did it for sure.
It can never occur to him as he's like sitting there with the knife that like I feel totally fine.
Yes, you're supposed to feel symptoms in 5 minutes. Why wouldn't you just wait until you feel symptoms?
And once you start to feel like you start to die, kill yourself.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, without that, the movie wouldn't happen. So,
well, obviously.
So, but I remember, like I was talking. I think I was talking to you about it before we went and saw it. I was like, "What is this movie?" And you told me it was a murder mystery, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. I like murder mysteries."
Right.
And then it was revealed what happened at the very end. I was like, "Well,
it sucks."
This mystery's not much of a mystery anymore."
It sucks.
There's a bunch of different. Also, they set it up very well. Like you've got the whole creaky stairs thing. Like up to his study.
Yeah, that was all very circumstantial with like the daughter is a light sleeper and.
But the thing is, it's all things that are realistic and could have like the creaky stairs. That looks like an old house. Like that's totally.
The throw up was not realistic.
No, that's the only thing that was kind of out there.
Something that I thought was interesting. That scene that I only noticed watching it the second or third time was in the after he's with Marta up in the attic and they talk about the go board. He like knocks the go board off.
Onto the carpet. Yeah.
It doesn't make a sound.
Yeah.
That was like cool foreshadowing.
That was cool because everyone expected it to make a sound. You know?
Yeah, but in hindsight, that was like I see what was happening there. But when I was watching the first time, it went over my head.
Yeah.
Also, how did everyone fail to mention to like Detective Blanc that there's a trap window on like right next to the study?
I don't know that a lot of.
I don't think people know about that.
Yeah.
I think she.
Martin knows.
I think Martin didn't know.
Well, he told her about it.
Evidently, Ransom knew about it, but I don't know if
I think most people didn't know about it.
I would seem like Ransom and Marta were the closest with.
I think it's just a very I'd love to like. I mean, obviously I'm not gonna get the chance, but like talk to Ryan Johnson and be like, how did you come up with this?
Right.
Like, how did you think? How did you like? Did you start from the beginning? Did you start from the middle? Did you start from the end? Because you've got like so many very finely placed details.
It all works together perfectly.
And then it like comes together. It fits so well together.
And also, he throws all these little details at you, and they come together in a very digestible way.
Yeah,
It's a great movie to watch twice. Really.
Yeah.
Yes.
And those was that an adaptation of like
No.
a book? Those
He
are so
thought of that. I think.
Well, there should be more movies where you just like new characters, new story, and just like sort of go with. Like I feel like most of the movies now are like book adaptations. Marvel.
I agree.
movies.
I feel like
Shawshank was a book adaptation from a Stephen King novel. Yeah.
Like Stephen King wrote that. Wow.
It's sort of It was a lot about the institutionalization part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a book adaptation.
Well, I think it's just a lot more interesting to watch new material that hasn't been adapted because it allows you to go anywhere with it.
Yeah.
Like I love some of what's her name, Christina Agatha's books, but I don't think I'd want to see them adapted.
Agatha Christie.
Agatha Christie, whatever.
She's
She's like a mystery novel.
There's what's the movie? Not the movie. The book we had to read. The one about the islands. We had to read it for. I don't know. Maybe
Was
not
that when like
hours.
they one by one kill people?
Yeah, exactly.
I never.
We're talking about
And like one of the
most
middle
dangerous
people whose
game.
dad,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
middle person who dies is actually the killer.
It's called.
And then there were
Agatha
and then there were
Christie's.
none.
Yeah, and then there were none.
That's a great book, but I don't think I'd want to see it in movie.
Yeah.
I read one Agatha Christie book.
What I think-
and there were none.
Like as much as I like Marvel movies and all that, I wish there were more original.
Yeah.
Guys.
Not only that, I just wish there were more murder mystery because it's
Yeah.
such an interesting.
They're always fun to watch.
They're always. I mean,
There are infinite twists you can add. Like there's
Even-
so many
even
different-
the-
Murder on the Orient
even the
Express.
older ones, like there's what is it?
Do you want to explain it and then we can try and figure it out instead of you looking
This
it up?
awkward silence.
Yeah.
No, because it's I don't
Furious typing.
really
We should
remember
also move on to
how to explain it.
Hudson.
I totally forget what it is.
Yeah.
No.
Anyways,
I mean,
though.
Murder on the Orient Express is fine.
They were
But also
didn't
about-
everyone killed.
Speaking of Murder the Orient Express, though, it's like one of the reasons Knives Out was so great was like the characters and like you all the such
They're
interesting
very
people.
fleshed out.
They were very
Yeah.
fleshed out, very believable.
Well, not only were they fleshed out as a character, like their story got more and
Yeah.
more clear as the movie went on.
Well, it's the same thing that you said that's great about Shawshank. The side characters are interesting within
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
Like you've got the oldest sister's relationship to her father as a very key plot point because then that's what ends up revealing to her that Richard is having an affair.
Yeah.
Through like the invisible ink or whatever.
Yep.
Anyway, on to probably the most anticipated
Yeah. So
segment.
speaking of really good movies,
Pencil Man trilogy.
the Pencil Man trilogy.
Shout out David if you're watching this. That was
Not a
really good.
chance he's watching it, but it
Not a
was
chance.
incredible.
We've watched you.
We were at the premiere.
We were at the premiere. of Pencil
Yeah,
Man.
we had the fortunate opportunity to be at the premiere of Pencil Man 3 and the highly
It was
anticipated
awesome.
movie. It was really a life-changing experience, I gotta say.
Like, not even a joke. It was actually really good.
No, it was.
I thought it was. I love the whole introduction part in the
Yeah.
third one.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway, Pencil Man 1, really fantastic movie.
great original concept and idea.
Original concept is it's
Very
The
timely.
origin story is
Now,
amazing.
does it reference Star Wars?
Yes.
The Avengers?
Yes.
He clearly took inspiration.
I mean,
from Star Wars.
you've got.
I wouldn't say that's a bad.
It's
But
very
those are
timely.
influences.
It's
Those are
very
influences.
timely. You've got the first one takes from Force Awakens, the second one takes from Civil War, third one takes from Endgame. But it kind of brings you into the feel of the movie.
Yeah. And it gives you, even though it's just pencils and paper in a school,
Yes.
they feel like
They
there's
flesh
consequences.
them
They
out.
really flesh them out. They write them out. As
Well, and just as every other movie we've mentioned today, watching it again just recently was so great because
This
I
was
think-
actually the first time I got to.
right, but for us too, we've
and,
seen
and
it
this guy
before.
Charlie, as he was watching it, was like his jaw was like almost.
It was amazing.
Loving it.
It was highly anticipated.
And it did not
It did
disappoint.
not disappoint
No,
at all.
Like for us watching it again, like I don't know, I got a lot of nostalgia there.
Yeah.
Well, it's very relatable.
It was very.
It's relatable. Well, I mean,
Well, you were literally in it.
Well, shh. Don't spoil the
Also,
interview.
it's pretty cool how all the kids he got involved with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
Like,
got
there's so
multiple
many
grades
scenes
of
of
it.
the
Yeah.
entire grade is like in a classroom.
It was nice to see everyone coming together.
I love that
fifth
scene.
graders like, no, we're
Yeah. And that scene where they're all chanting like pencil man.
Yeah,
pencil,
that was
pencil.
awesome.
The action, phenomenal. The
Yeah.
final.
So I'm not sure how this got here, but what's written on my notes is that there should have been more scenes with the Minion.
That's crazy.
I mean, whoever wrote that is absolutely correct. He was a scene stealer.
Yeah, it's a shame he gave the plans to Mason.
I know. Well, but that's great
a
character
big, that's a
development.
big plot hole though. What was his motivation?
Yeah, how did those plans really get
I mean,
to
if
this?
only there's someone here we could ask.
Well, I think the Minion, being the good Minion that he is, will not reveal those secrets.
Yeah. Okay. But why would is the
Obviously, he
Minion-
wasn't a good man.
Well,
Like,
ask him in the interview.
Something about the Minion is that like that there's something about the acting. You can really tell that he sort of isn't going along with Pencil Sharpener Man,
Yeah.
and he's
There's a
conflict.
bit of
and
rebellion.
you can feel the
Well,
rebellion.
and I mean, you see how Pencil Sharpener Man treats him. Like he waits for him to
Not
open the
well.
door before him.
No.
Like, come on.
That's
Yeah.
bad.
Like Pencil Sharpener Man, like I know you got a Pencil Sharpener here, but like you can open your own door.
Well,
Yeah,
it
they
can.
also paid. I mean, sorry, the Minion minimum wage. So think about that.
Well, if you want, and you pay your workers more if you don't want the plans getting in the hands of
Exactly.
Sure, maybe there's a reason why.
Mason, by the way, was a phenomenal
That's a
character.
great
100%.
commentary too. Also, when it's like, what's the weakness? I never would have thought that it's plugged in.
Yeah, and the comedy with Pencilman not being able to take it out, and then Mason,
Because
he
he
relies on Mason.
Yeah, the funniest part is that you would think the homework machine would be more than a fax machine.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It's not.
It was.
But that's the genius.
And
of it.
even Pencilman needs help sometimes.
Even Pencilman.
No, especially from just
From
like
guys like
regular old
Mason.
people.
For regular guys.
Well, the most genius about the whole facts, they didn't actually really show the method in which the homework increased. They showed the reactions to it.
Yeah,
exactly.
So how much of a big deal this was throughout the school.
And the interesting commentary is that there's no particular class. We don't know what they're doing. It's just there is homework for the sake of being homework.
Yeah.
Well,
Also,
homework's a pretty relatable bad thing. I know I've struggled with a massive amount of homework at points.
Life is suffering.
Life is
Homework
suffering.
increased.
Also, the complacency of the teachers. They're just assigning
I know.
it.
Exactly.
All Pencil Sharpener Man did was just make a machine that made homework. But why
They,
did
they didn't have to use
It
it.
really shows a lot about human nature.
and
he just,
institutionalism.
he changed
Institutionalization.
one bit, and everyone's reactions shifted. The teachers.
And in what sense is the school a form of prison?
Oh wow.
Form of
Yes.
institutionalization.
Well, and I mean, with the teachers themselves as well. The fact that they were so willing to go along with this nefarious plot really, I think, says something about the humanity of teachers as a whole.
Yeah,
I agree.
Test today, test tomorrow.
Yes.
Test
Every
every
second.
day.
Anyway, the second one.
So it's a great artistic choice, starting it as a trailer and having it morph into the actual movie.
That-
That's something I've seen before.
That really threw me off at the beginning.
It
But it's
threw
not
me
something
off, but
I've
it's
seen before.
excellent. It's
I
an
just
original
wasn't ready for
idea.
The filming is amazing with the drones.
Yeah.
Clearly
Oh my
established.
gosh.
Imagine if you walked into Knives Out and it said coming next year, and then it went through the entire movie.
plot. And then you realize you've been sitting there for 2 hours. And
But it's the actual
Yeah.
movie.
But it's the movie, and now you're like, wait, is it actually coming out next year, or did I just watch it?
And that's part of the
that's-
mystery.
That's the mystery. That sort of mental.
What
bending
was great
you have
about
to do.
the second one is obviously the first one did so well in the box office, so they had a bigger budget, so they had all
So
these
you
cool
got the
drone
drone.
shots.
That last scene too at the end on Aiken Common where
That was epic.
But I mean, it's just
any other
yeah.
action
and it's so well
scenes.
shot and the way
Michael
it's shot,
Bay,
man.
eat your heart out.
Well,
It's
you
not
had a great scene. The 1v1 in Pencilman 1 was great.
It's a little too short though.
But it's a little short
But-
and not as
And
grand.
they got so many new, fresh characters, like Ruler Boy. Ruler
Yeah.
We
Boy
were
was.
talking about how side characters stole the show.
But
That's
the thing,
true.
side character- That's it goes back to being a trailer for those moments.
Yeah.
Where they're introducing all the new characters and it's what's going on here?
But even within the introductions, they're still fleshed out.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I did get a lot of those characters from just their chosen utensil of school.
Yeah.
Ruler Boy,
And
the
also,
eraser.
Bro, the stationary squad.
It's
Sorry,
like
it's
the
different,
choice of
yeah.
having Mason just
Mason.
Mason.
Yeah.
It's a really-
Well,
it's really a
Mason
Mason
is
always
a
is.
commentary on the middle class civilian who is able to help by just being himself.
And last time what Mason said, Mason was the one who unplugged the homework machine.
Yeah.
And
He
he
saved
said-
the day.
Superpower. You
So
don't
it's
need
both
superpowers
this
to make it
genius,
happen.
it's both this genius commentary and then also this comedic moment where it's all these over-the-top stationary.
Talk about
things,
small
superheroes.
details coming into play and
I
fitting
mean, I
together.
think it really shows David's filmmaking skills shining through there, where he was able to combine those two of a commentary on society, but also have it be fun.
And also it'd be fun.
Yeah,
It's
it's
great.
just it's genius.
Incredible.
And one more thing I want to touch on for the second one is that, those camera angles in the scene, in the fight scene, all those cuts.
Oh my god.
I felt like I was watching the very highly anticipated Marvel.
all the different ways in which David fell, just incredible.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then we see the movie continue, and then they're about to do the big reveal at the end, and then it just ends.
And then it cuts. Can we
And
talk
then-
about, for a second, the cameo? Mr.
Yeah,
Mason.
Mr. Mason.
He was fantastic.
He was
The way-
fantastic.
You guys don't know who Mr. Mason is.
I don't, but when his
I've
eyebrow
heard
was
stories, but I think I know enough about him only from.
He carries so
only
much
his performance.
significance
He
in
does.
his
He
performance.
does.
in the first one, his eyebrow or second one.
Yeah,
No,
first
first one.
Yes.
And his big reveal. Obviously, we didn't actually get.
We
the
didn't
reveal.
hear
It's
it.
just
And then
very-
it goes back to being a trailer, and you're sitting there what did I just watch?
Well, what's-
When I need to know. And that's why Pencilman 3 was so great.
Yes.
Well,
And
it's
it
also
lives up to the hype too.
Well, or was it Pennsylvania too?
Or was it Pencilman 2?
Yeah. Oh,
2.5.
I mean, what also is interesting, obviously, the big reveal is Pencil Sharpener Man is your blank, and then we go on to the third one, it just drops so casual. Like,
Yeah.
Oh my
Subverting expectations. That's what a great movie does.
That's not what the movie's about. It's not about that review.
No,
you know? But
exactly.
it is like kind of like a.
Well, and that's what it left us at. Like when the second one ended, we were all like just awaiting this third one to come out so we could finally learn, and that's all that we thought about up until then. And then they just told us.
Yeah, and it was so much more.
It was very nonchalant.
We also
There's one big issue with this movie. Obviously, there was no Minion.
Yeah. In the second and third, where the hell did he go?
So what is Pencil Sharpener Man doing? Like, how did he open doors?
Exactly.
Exactly.
He can't open doors, bro.
I think like a lot of that was like the third movie, obviously taking place much on Zoom. You wouldn't really need.
Well, no, the second one doesn't have a Minion, does it?
Second one does not have a minion.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Pencil sharp. But think about it, he was in an open field almost the entire time. He wouldn't have had any doors. Also, no. The minion wasn't it. He was rushing in the final battle.
He was in the
rushing
final
the
battle.
other side.
on the side of the pencil.
He was on the side of the pencil sharpener man.
It was, you
So
didn't
he's,
really,
so he's still a sheep.
there was no, but there was.
So he's still. I would say he's a sheep. He charged with a little bit more reluctancy than everyone else, so he was.
I didn't catch that. Was that a specific character?
Yeah, was that
What?
the actor's specific character?
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, I think there's something to be said about like the director not giving Minion as much screen time. He could have easily done that, but
Yeah.
No, but the Minion manages to like.
make an impact regardless of if his name
And
is
it's a
mentioned
big.
or not.
Right, he's like a 6th man of the year. Like,
The
like he
performance-
wasn't. He didn't get all the minutes, but
It's
what
what
he did in the
Basically,
minutes
the minion is Brooks.
yes,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
side character.
or Jordan Clarkson.
And I think that Brooks is the
Close.
that's the moment that I think most people take away most from
Yeah.
that movie. The Minion for me, when we find out the Minion gave the plans to Mason.
That's
That was so.
just another middle class citizen helping out.
So in Pencil Man 3, or as Winslow typed it, Pencil Man 3. So
First of all, I love the incorporation of modern problems and something that students are all going through.
and how great a character was Zoom Boy.
Zoom Boy, the mystery with the mask and the sunglasses.
Yeah.
Also, phenomenal acting by like the little kids.
Yeah,
that really like
awesome.
showed
Yeah.
like actually what's happening.
Actually, I love that part.
Yeah, that's a great part.
You're
The kids are
old.
like the kids are like. What were they talking about again? There, they just didn't.
Like, what is a school?
They
Yeah,
go
and
into
also,
the-
yeah, speaking of that, the scene where like the student walks into the classroom, he can't figure out what to do with the chair and the desk.
Oh yeah.
Yes, exactly. Oh, that was incredible.
That was very good acting by that actor who I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
I wonder who he is.
Also, the fact that they took it to a digital location means the editing had to be top notch, and the
Yeah.
editing was incredible.
The editing is great. It was really great. The one thing is that the best part too, at the very end, Pencil Sharpener Man wasn't actually there. And
I know.
You can't tell.
You cannot tell that. That's actually a fun fact.
It's,
yeah.
yeah.
That's the behind the scenes look.
Yeah.
Is that
I didn't
is
know-
that
I
the
didn't
real
know
actor
that
of
was
Pencil
the
Sharpener Man couldn't make the scene.
Yeah.
And I didn't know until after.
Which is honestly like why? Like come on, man. This is like the big
Seriously.
close-up. Like you have
need to
be
be
there.
there.
That's my
Something
one
you should
critique.
do.
Other than that, like
So I'm not sure who the actor for Pencil Sharpener Man is. If you're watching this,
But get your act together.
Like, how do you miss that? And, like, what? How long of a car ride do you have to be on to miss the filming for that?
Yeah, exactly. It's actually
That's just horrendous plan.
I mean, I have no critiques for the director of this.
No,
movie.
No,
but
of course,
I
if
couldn't
I
even
were to say
fathom.
like, I just don't understand.
The twist at the end that it's a webinar.
that was
That was
crazy.
yeah.
That's
that was
crazy.
that was genius. The
again, like off my toes. I wasn't ready for that.
The other
Yeah.
fun fact is that the person who said at the end, "I'm gonna go enlist," actually,
Actually enlisted.
Yeah, it's actually.
it's a fun
Thank
fact.
you for your service.
Yeah.
Or your future service.
Curing
So-
Mary regret.
Well, and once again, Pencil Man 3, Zoom Boy had no minion.
Zoom
did
Boy.
not have a miss.
And what's
Maybe
funny is
that's
I
what
wonder.
That's because the minion. Remember, the minion was already turning good from Pennsylvania
And
1,
interesting-
and he
interesting
turned
moment.
good at the end.
But interesting, but so did Pencil Sharpener Man. So interesting.
So is he still a sheep?
No,
interesting
no,
moment.
but
What
the-
side would the minion have taken?
Yeah.
I think the minion is part of the elite group who still remembers their memories.
The minion was there.
The minion
Was
was there.
The minion was there, wasn't he? I didn't notice that.
Was the minion there? That was like confusing.
The minion wasn't there, but he was part of that
So he had
core
his camera
collective.
off.
He had his camera
It
off.
would've
He
been-
couldn't figure out the technology because his memories were already fading.
Would have been a really easy thing.
I'd
for
love
the
to
minion
see
show up to that. Right.
Well, that's probably true, but I'm sure he's
I
a
wonder
busy
why the
student.
minion didn't put in the effort. after.
I would love to see a spin-off.
Probably a
I would love to see a spin-off
Like,
as well.
similar to how they did Minions off of this week movie. I'd love to see
Yeah,
Minions
exactly.
off of
It would be cool though if Minion had his own podcast.
yeah.
That would be really cool.
Alright, well,
Speaking of
I think-
Minion, I think we need to go get our special
I
guest.
think we buried the lead far
I
enough.
think we need to go.
So we've touched on this
Our
Minion a
special
lot.
guest.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of talking about the specific character choices. So I think it's about time that we bring out our very special guest. And if you couldn't tell, I am definitely stalling. So that our special guest can get here on time.
The
We
Minion.
got the actor who played the Minion.
Oh.
wow, look at that.
Where did Winslow go, by the way?
Nice to meet you.
He had a requirement.
This is cool.
This is
Awesome.
issue requirement.
Can you sign
Can you like
that?
can you like
Yeah, I got you.
But don't sign his phone key. It's like
Excuse
virtual.
me?
This is the whole problem. Like the virtual.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
so
sign
they
it.
don't have just like a piece of paper.
Yeah, go get a piece of paper.
Okay, so
Kill the environment.
So
Let's
like
do it.
obviously, so Minion, right? Your
Hold
big
on, I need to
moment-
get comfortable.
Wow.
So your big moment is like.
Here, wait, is this chair good for you? Would you like a different one? I'm glad.
No, it's his job to get his own. This is what he does. He doesn't do things for.
No,
him.
I'm a big time Hollywood actor.
Yeah, he's great.
So Minion, like
Hey,
obviously.
Diet
Can I
Coke?
get
Can
you
you
another
guys not like afford regular Coke? What is with this?
No, it's
We
in our
apologize.
studio. No,
Hmm.
anyway, so Minion, are you ready for your question now?
Give him a sec. Still settling it.
Yes.
So obviously your big moment, your big reveal is when it turns out that you had given the plans to Mason. And that's an
Indeed.
amazing moment of acting. So what really went into the preparation for that performance?
Well, you know, I was thinking a lot about some of my idols, some of the great actors, Morgan Freeman, Adam Sandler,
So you're a fan of Morgan Freeman?
Bill Nye, especially.
Yeah, he's
And
a
I-
science guy.
Mr. Guy.
Well, excuse me, don't criticize my knowledge of actors. I know what I'm talking
Come on.
about.
All right, Minion.
Can you say the questions next, please? I'd rather not hear from him.
Wow.
Well,
You've been cut
I would like you to answer his question.
No one really answered my question.
Well, so what went into it was I was thinking about how to make the character more fleshed out, more relatable, and I was like, why not just do what I normally do, but in the place of the Minion?
Yeah.
How genius is that?
So do you usually mess up evil plans?
Funny story for another time. But anyway,
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna leave it.
So you plan on coming back on this podcast?
well, if of course,
Yeah. Okay.
once I mean, your views are gonna blow up. They're gonna
Of
want me
course,
back.
yeah.
but you do normally mess up evil plans.
It's a sign.
It's been known to happen.
Was it
before.
not like this foreshadowing of character development, or
No, it absolutely was, and you can see his character develop through the trilogy
Yeah.
into a harbinger of good against the powers of Zoomboy.
And then that specific scene where you open the door, did you have to like do any training off screen?
Oh,
for that?
like 6 hours a day,
Was
6 a week.
So okay, I have to ask, was that a stunt double or do you do your own stunts?
No, I always do mine. Tom Cruise, again, one of my
Yeah, we respect that here.
biggest role models. It took a lot of training. I stumbled a little bit at first, but
By
being-
your estimate, how many doors did you have to open to prepare for that?
well, given 6 hours a day, 6 days a week for about 2 months, I'd say approximately like 20,000 doors.
Wow.
Not all of them push too. Some of them were pull, and
Any
those-
slides?
those.
Just tell me which door is harder.
Well, I mean, being me, I wanted to be the most challenged, so obviously the push door that was in the final cut was the hardest.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
okay.
Yeah.
But it was also the best, obviously.
Well,
Yeah.
of
Definitely
course.
got a reaction from the
Did you ever pull a push door or push and pull door?
Oh no.
Oh wow, that's a
I
bad
did not.
question.
You did
I
not.
did not.
Never.
Never.
I did run into
Never
a sliding
once.
door.
Oh.
See, that happens.
No, it does happen.
What was the relationship like with Pencil Sharpener Man? How that?
You know, I think
Like
our
off-screen, yeah.
I think
Yeah,
our
like
on-screen relationship pretty much mirrored our off-screen relationship.
Really? So like he was.
He was a little bit overshadowing. I didn't love working with him, but you know, sometimes though that's how this industry goes, and you don't get to work with people you always want to.
Have you worked with him again since?
Well, given that I've been in every other Pennsylvania, of
Well,
course, David.
Was there
Stupid question.
was there a reason why were you upset that you didn't get as much on screen?
I had other commitments, so not really. I was just honored to be brought back on by the director
Yeah.
for the continuation.
So I
of
mean,
the
I
series.
hear you were a finalist for the Despicable Me role of Minion.
I was, and unfortunately, I didn't make the cut. I'm a little bit too tall.
So I mean, you are a little tall.
Not round enough.
Not round enough, but to like a yellow person wearing overalls is casted. How does that?
Well,
it
was definitely a dark time in my life.
Yeah.
I had to get past the fact that people who didn't actually speak intelligible words or anything had a language of their own.
They can say banana.
I can say banana.
As you can see, he still holds some hard feelings over this.
Yeah. Can we not?
Yes. I'll move on.
For bad questions.
This is personal.
Okay.
Forgive me if this is too personal, but how much were you paid for this role? Or do you not?
Or were you paid in pencils?
Yeah.
I was given a sign. I was actually given a sign. You know the pencil at the end, which Mr. Mason gives.
Yes.
I was given that signed autograph.
You have that.
Yeah, I have that at my house.
Where do you keep it?
Behind like a massive vault.
Is that where you keep the Oscar?
Oh come on! You wanted an Oscar for that film. I don't understand how you weren't nominated. I really don't.
I really don't.
Obviously, it's corrupt. We all know that, but I mean, it's just.
I'm a little bit.
And it's movies like Pencil Man always are sort of have bias in the Academy Award.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just think they need a category for supporting actor. I don't know why that doesn't exist.
You did a great job supporting the best supporting actor.
I did. I absolutely did. I killed it.
Absurd. But anyways, how much were you paid?
In the pencil.
In pencils or money?
I was given. Well, no. I was given the pencil. I was given some of the shreddings from a pencil sharpener. And
does it bother you that the actor behind Pencil Sharpener Man has an infinite supply of those?
A little bit. It does bother me a little bit. But he doesn't have a massive pencil.
True.
No, he doesn't.
Alright,
so that pencil couldn't fit in there either.
No.
So
moving on.
What are you laughing at?
It's funny that you laughed at that.
Moving on from Pencil Man a little bit, you've been sort of gone from the scene for a while. You've been
I wanted to focus on myself a little bit, do a little self-discovery, and given how much I employ my personality into my roles, I think it's important
What'd you discover?
We're such a bad interview. Can we get this guy out of here, please?
Switch seats.
Security, please. But I think I need to take time to focus on myself because I think that'll be where my best roles come from.
Mm-hmm.
If I really stay true to myself and incorporate how I function on a daily basis, I think that'll really shine through my next couple of roles. And this is my first actually live posted whatever you want to call it on-screen performance since Pencil Man, so it's a little scary.
I feel pretty good.
I'm not gonna lie.
So tell me what kind
Well,
of
I came on because I wanted to meet Wendy, but she's not here, so.
Who's Wendy?
So tell me, in your reflection, what did you do to discover yourself a little bit more? What kind of things did you do on a daily basis?
Drank a lot of protein smoothies, as you can tell.
Well, obviously, you don't want to be stuck in that perception of Hollywood as just being the Minion.
Yeah.
You need to go.
I need to broaden my perspective.
You can look at John Krasinski. He was
it's good in some ways.
Completely different build, right?
Yeah.
Now he's an action star, but he was this comedy person.
Yeah.
If you
It was the same thing with what's his name, Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
with his role in Parks and
in
Rec.
some ways it's good you didn't get the Despicable Me role because
I think I would have been typecast.
you would have been typecast.
Yeah.
Like think about all those poor actors like Daniel Craig who went into a role like Harry Potter and never really emerged with anything else.
Wrong Daniel, but yeah.
Whatever. Too many.
It's Daniel Craig now. It's Daniel Craig now. He said it's Daniel Craig. It's Daniel Craig.
Too many Daniels in the industry. I like Daniel Craig more. I've worked with him more.
And there's kind of one of the final questions. I have two questions for you. What was it like working with David, just a well-renowned director?
That was probably one of the most incredible experiences of my life. His vision, unmatched.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't really appreciate some of the actors that he brought on, I think in hindsight he made the net.
You gotta give us the.
Oh, I'm not giving you the scoop right now. That would be a whole nother podcast. Once I come back, I'll give you the scoop. But his vision as a director and all the key small moments that he placed in there, the placement of Mason and I loved working with Mason, by the way. Handing him those plans, one of the best moments of my acting career.
So before you go, can you give us the? So am I given the plans to Mason?
You know what?
Can you just do it for us?
Well, I kind of, sort of, maybe gave the plans to Mason.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's great.
we still got it, everyone. We still
I
got it.
got it.
Thank you for watching the Steezcast, everyone.
Ah.
This final episode. What a way.
Ryan Johnson, if you're watching,
It's been-
sign me.
yeah.
Final way.
And use my house, please.
Yeah, this is.
And then use his house.
It's been a great ride.
This is our longest episode yet.
Ride
Yeah.
podcast. Ride podcast.
Ride podcast.
No. Yeah, so this has been an absolute pleasure doing this with you guys.
Can I replace that Winslow guy?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll switch it
I
up.
listened to his whole thing on Knives Out. Dude had no idea what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Clearly not a movie guy. He's just not a movie guy.
You should have heard some of the other episodes.
Really? Well, like, whoa.
The
What
commentary
was the
was the
funniest
funniest
stuff?
Oh my god, he was just a disaster through like every time. The dude.
Really?
Yeah.
You have no idea.
Because I heard some different things about you.
Really?
I heard you were just lazy as hell on set.
Yeah,
You never
no,
took.
Alright!
I mean,
We're gonna not do this right now.
we should look at my notes from this episode.
We're gonna not do this right now.
Expansive they
And
are.
instead, we're gonna thank all of our viewers for watching.
Everyone, thank you.
All 6 of you guys.
Individually.
That's a stretch. It's a stretch.
Well, no, we can get 4 viewers if we all look.
So there were 125 viewers, 13 likes on our first.
There were more,
No, there was
160
more.
something.
We had like
168.
Yeah.
So maybe we try and advertise.
It's been in
this.
chronic decline since. Probably we should stop advertising.
Definitely exponential decay.
Exponential.
But yes.
Well, now that I'm on here, you guys are gonna get blown up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is unfortunately our last episode. Until, of course, our actor friend here comes back. If he comes back.
If one of us becomes famous and like a lot of people end up finding this.
What do you mean? What do you mean if? I think you mean
when of course.
I mean, we're including Winslow, because you have.
That guy's never gonna get famous. Are you kidding me? Bro, what's he gonna be famous for?
So yeah,
Being a
hi
street
everyone who's coming to watch this when
Yeah.
one of us is famous.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome.
I'm cooler than all of them. Goodbye.